What we mean by that is that you cannot push, as you do in Norway, to drive electric vehicles and then at the same time run an ESG program on mining and fossil and metals and batteries. That makes zero sense. And just for the record, if I really need to upset all you Norwegians here, it makes no, it makes zero difference to the world whether 100% of Norwegians drive an electric vehicle or not, relatively to the issue that we globally are addressing, which is CO2 emission. While you are buying more and more subsidized electric vehicles, what is happening over in China is that they consume 30%, 30% of global electricity, which they produce 70% of by using coal burning. On top of that, it's even worse in India and in Russia. So if you in Norway want to do something that changes the CO2 emission, you should invest and you should have used, and this again, going after my favorite people in the world, the Norwegians here, you should have used all that money to fund and chair the biggest professorship in alternative energy, in fusion energy, in small nuclear reactors, in and to some extent, the Oslo Stock Exchange, to be fair, is trying to be that intermediate function. But you left 20, 30 years on the table where you could have played a major role. You buy electric vehicles, no difference to the world. Maybe for your conscience and God, Godspeed on that for the Norwegians. But that physical world versus the practicality of what goes on needs to be respected. And it's actually one of our outrageous calls this year that we're saying there will be a rain check on the fossil energy sector. What we mean by that is that we fully buy into the concept of electric vehicles. We fully buy into the concept of renewable energy, but it is not the solution. It is part of the solution. It is not the solution. The solution is to build a tangible, implementable infrastructure rollout and at the same time simultaneously investing into something like the Manhattan Project equivalent of finding marginal cost of energy with a cost of zero and an emission at zero. That is what will change the world. And that disconnect is something I love as that macro guy you were asking after. I love that disconnect, not because it's an issue, but because it's solvable. It actually we only need to address the real issue, the real elephant in the room, and we can address that. But the physical world right now is that the more electric vehicles you buy, the more you are carbonized. You're metallizing the world. So basically, when you decarbonize the world, you're metallizing the world. On top of that, you create, because of ESG constraints, you create a inelasticity in supply from the mining and the fossil energy sector because the cost of capital is through the roof, 15, 20% if you can raise capital at all. You cannot do greenfielding, you cannot do brownfielding. And even the board members on these fossil energy companies and the mining companies, they are livid afraid of being sued by investors, by regulators, by private citizen groups and others because they are in a pollutive business. The fact is that everything you do today, Chris, everything your family do today has huge amount of electricity consumption, which, by the way, doesn't come out naturally just because you switch on a switch, but actually needs to be generated in most cases by a stable flow velocity wise of a turbine that generates this energy, i.e. renewable energy is independent, is not to be used in this grid net. So we are building out electric vehicles without having the grid network to do it. And I think famously in Norway, if you go to Hytte on a weekend, you can find one charger that is doing it fast, and there's a queue of like 30 kilometers to get to that one. That just shows you my physical world versus the aspiration of where we want to be. And I think that's been a critical way to think about the world. And it is going back to the education part of these items. So what is happening right now is that these two worlds, the political financial world, which is driven entirely by talking, is now meeting a reality of people who practically need to deliver these services. The logistic companies, the global supply chains are getting far more complex, which means you need more scale, you need to be in more countries, you need better computer system. So the marginal cost of operating infrastructure system is getting more expensive. Meanwhile, we keep dreaming that we can all just get electricity for free. So what is happening is that the reality of the constraints in the physical world is now creating a bridge to the financial world. And that means, in my opinion, and only in my opinion, that the financial world need to reprice the cost of energy, the price of mining products higher, and relatively reduce the price of something like platform companies and Teslas and others.